Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Philosophia Floating World. Floating World is for 1 to 6 players, ages 16 and up, and games range anywhere from 45 to 75 minutes. Welcome to the Floating World. In this game, you will travel back to feudal Japan, taking on the role of a character from that era, each with a unique set of skills and a terrible secret. Your aim is to demonstrate Gambaro, the ability to commit oneself fully and see a task through to the end, showing your dedication to the philosophies of ancient Japan, whilst keeping the location of your secret hidden from your fellow players. So, good luck. The goal of Philosophia is to be the first to achieve one of the many victory conditions available in the game. You can do this by achieving all 4 of the Gambaro tokens: Shinto for building 3 Shinto shrines, Zen for building a Buddhist pagoda, Bushido for defeating a legendary monster, and Chia for learning ancient Eastern philosophies. Alternatively, you can win by achieving any 2 of these goals and discovering the location of an opponent's secret. Now, there are some different setup options in this game based on the player count. Like the main board, we'll have 2 sides. However, in this prototype, we only have 1 side, and it's set up for a 1 to 3 player game. Now, each player is going to choose a character, and each of these characters has an icon associated with them, and you'll gather their starting cards as well as their token for starting the game. Now, each of the characters also has some starting items, things like time tokens and coin that you'll gather and put next to your character, as well as your starting miniature. These miniatures are pretty cool, actually. And then each player can pick a player board. Now, these player boards have your actions on them, as well as spots for your shrine tokens, as well as a pagoda. So you'll place those tokens and pagoda on your player board, and then you'll take the season deck. You'll shuffle it up, deal out 5 cards. This is where you'll be pulling cards from throughout the game to add to your deck. It is a deck builder after all. Now there's some tokens you're going to be placing around the board for easy access for all players. You've got time tokens, you've got build tokens, and you've got coin. Then on the main board, you're going to set up the item deck, and you'll place these boat icons next to that deck. These tokens are going to help you travel a bit. Now, there's also a deck of legendary creatures. You're going to have to be battling it out with these creatures in order to gain those Gambaro tokens. So you'll shuffle that up and place it on the board, and then you have your wisdom deck, and you'll be setting that up as well. Above the wisdom deck, though, is these tokens, the Gambaro tokens that you're sought after. These are the things you're trying to get. So you'll place those and stack them in their appropriate spots. Now let's go back to these character cards. So on your character card, we'll show the starting location for your character. You'll be placing that out on the board, and you'll also have an influence value. Starting with the highest number, moving down, you'll place your influence tokens on the appropriate track. This influence track will be deciding a lot of things throughout the game, so your tokens will be changing position quite a lot. Now, finally, there are location tokens, and one of your locations is your secret location, hoping to keep hidden from the other players. But you're going to pick 2 of these. One is going to go onto your secret location spot on your player board. The other is a decoy. And as your starting game, they suggest you put your decoy on your move action because you will be covering up an action spot, making it unavailable for at least a time. So that's the basics of setup, and we're ready to begin. Each round of the game is divided into 3 phases. You have the draw phase, you have the collect phase, and then finally the action phase. Now this draw phase is kind of interesting because you will draw the 6 cards from your main deck and hand those cards to the player on your left. They will then get to choose one of those cards to discard, and the rest of the cards they will divide into a pile of 3 and a pile of 2. Handing them back to you, you will then decide to keep either the 3 cards or the 2 cards. Whichever one you keep, the other will then get discarded, and then you move to the collect phase. Regardless of where everybody else is in that particular draw phase, you still can move on to the collect phase. So then you collect the rewards based on the cards that are in your hand. Now you're looking for the green box and the symbols contained within. There's a bit of an order of operations here though. You're looking first for the symbol to draw cards, and you'll draw cards from your main deck. Then you're looking for coins, and you even potentially might be able to gather coins based on having wisdom cards or something like that. And then thirdly, you're looking for the time token. You'll gather your time tokens. And then fourth, you're looking for the build token, and you can ever only hold 4 build tokens at any one time. Now there's a couple special icons as well to keep in mind, where you could potentially play all your cards that were given to you in that draw phase, or you might be able to exchange decks and so forth. But those are just special cases. Generally, you're gathering those resources from the cards when it's called for. Now, at the end of this collect phase, you're going to be looking at the action spots on your player board, and you'll be potentially placing time tokens on those so you can use them in the action phase. Now, a lot of the action spots on your board will be actions that you perform based on cards you have as well. So you don't have to do that, but it just gives you additional actions that you can tap into in this next phase, the action phase. Now, during this action phase, you will potentially run into conflicts because everyone at the table will be performing actions at the same time. And when you do run into conflicts, the first thing you'll consult is the influence track. And whoever's at the top of that track will win that conflict, and then their icon or token will move to the bottom of the track. Everyone else will move up. So that positioning will change quite frequently in the game. Now, you're looking for actions that are in the red box on your player cards, and you can perform those, as well as if you decide not to, you can just discard the card and collect a coin. And you're also looking on your player board for icons that you covered with the time icon, or the time token, I should say. You'll remove the token and discard it back to the supply and perform that action. Or you might have a boat token, which allows you to move anywhere on the board. So those are the basic areas that you're going to be getting actions from. Now, the thing here is that you're going to have several. There's all kinds of possibilities of what these actions could be, but it's going to be limited to what you have on your board based on what cards you have in your hand. And one of the basic ones right away is movement. You're going to have red arrows will determine how far you can move, 1, 2, or 3. And you're just moving around this map, moving to the different locations, and you'll move according to the dotted black line. Moving to the next location is one movement, and so forth. And you can bypass other players and so forth in that movement phase. Now, you might also have acquired a card that is in landscape form. This card is another way you'll have actions throughout the rounds. Now, this card stays in play all the time in your player area. It has a little green circular icon showing that it's ongoing. Now, in the case of this one, it's an extra movement, and you'll take advantage of that throughout the game. However, these landscape cards could have collect items on them instead. But you will be acquiring cards in this game. You'll be buying those cards from the seasoned deck, and that's another possible action. And you'll be paying the cost. It's very simple. It's in the top right of the card, how much this card costs. You'll pay the coin and put it into your deck. Some of the other types of actions you can perform are things like burning a card. You can burn a card from your discard pile only, basically thinning out your deck. You can flip over a location token as another action, moving it onto the board and collecting a coin. Or you might take the study action, which is going to give you a wisdom card. Now, these cards have icons on them, and they're going to give you different abilities. So they allow you basically to build. You need those resources for building your shrines and your pagoda. But you also are trying to do a set collection with these wisdom cards so you can gain a Gone Borrow token. But also building all your different shrines and pagoda are also ways to gain a Gone Borrow token. So they kind of feed into each other, which is really interesting. But also building is another action. You can build out your different types of shrines or the pagoda if you have the resources to pay for them, and then you'll place them out on the map where appropriate. And then you might visit the market, buying items that will either be weapons that will help you in battles later, or maybe the boat tokens so you can travel anywhere in the world. Or you might just get special abilities from these cards, but they all have a cost, and as they move down the line, they get cheaper and cheaper. And another way to gain one of these Gone Borrow tokens, the Bushido, is to travel to the location on the map where you can fight one of these legendary creatures. You'll travel there, and that's the only way to do this action, is traveling to that spot. So you'll draw the card from the top of the monster deck, and as long as you have the resources to pay at the bottom of the card, you win, and you collect your token. That card then is discarded to the bottom of the pile. But that's just a quick way to get one of these tokens, but you do have to have the resources on hand in order to battle them. So you have to plan out your moves and hope you've gathered enough items and so forth to deal with these legendary creatures. Or you might perform the search action, which is when you're at a location, you call out I'm searching here. And all your opponents have to tell you is if they're there or not. So there's two possibilities here. Either you found their secret location or you found their decoy. In both cases, you're going to have some action on your player board covered up. But if you found their secret location, you get one of these lock tokens, which will help you win the game, but it will lock out one of the actions on your player board. But you get to choose where you place it, which is nice. And likewise, if you found their decoy, they fooled you, and you'll take that token and place it also on your player board, locking out a particular action. But again, you choose where you place it. Now, there is also a festival. If the festival's in play or you have an action for the festival, you can put that at your location. Now, the location cannot be searched, though, when there's a festival there. And the festival basically will just allow you to interchange tokens. You can change time tokens for money and money for time, so back and forth. But those are the basics of the different actions at the table. And again, you're trying to build to gain these Gone Borrow tokens, or you're battling creatures to gain those tokens. You might be trying to gather wisdom to gain those tokens and so forth. So there's lots of different ways to do that. But if you do find those secret locations, then you're trying to find that lock token, which in combination with the Gone Borrow tokens will help you win the game as well. So there's lots of different combinations and different ways to go about those winning conditions. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, this is a really interesting deck builder, and I like the fact that a lot of what you're doing is simultaneous, and how that influence track really can deal with those conflicts that will inevitably happen as you both are trying to do, or multiple people are trying to do the same action at the same time. That's a pretty interesting aspect as well. But the game plays really fast, and the theme really does come through in this deck builder. But ultimately, folks, if this game looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it from me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.